Imagine this, outside. The night stretches on for dozens of hours, with winds howling as if they could tear everything apart, and temperatures dropping below -30 degrees Celsius. There is no electricity, no modern heaters, no ultralight high-tech jackets. And yet, more than 1,000 years ago, the Vikings, the warriors of the north, not only survived, but also conquered some of the coldest lands in Europe. So what was their secret? Let's turn back the wheel of time. Step into the harsh winter nights of Northern Europe and discover how they endured them. To answer this question, we need to turn back the clock to between the 8th and 11th centuries, the height of the Viking Age. Back then, the Vikings were not only skilled sailors and fierce warriors, but also masters of survival in some of the harshest environments on Earth. And interestingly, their survival secrets weren't just about brute strength. They came from clever strategies rooted in a deep understanding of their environment, natural materials, and even human psychology. First, let's understand that the climate in Northern Europe during the Viking Age was colder than it is today. Scientists call this period the Early Little Ice Age, a time when average temperatures were about 1 to 2 degrees Celsius lower than now, but that difference was enough to make winter a life-or-death challenge. Snowstorms could last for days, rivers and lakes froze solid, cutting off water routes, and finding food in the winter was extremely difficult. So where did they start? The first answer is shelter. Vikings lived in longhouses, large rectangular buildings made from wood, stone, and sometimes clay, with thick roofs covered in turf or straw. These houses were built low, with steep roofs so snow wouldn't accumulate, and with small doorways to reduce heat loss. Inside, the space was divided between family living areas and animal stalls. Yes, livestock were kept indoors during winter, not only for protection but because their body heat helped raise the indoor temperature. Cows, sheep, and goats became living heaters, providing precious warmth when it mattered most. At the heart of every longhouse was a central hearth, the true lifeline of a Viking winter. This was where meals were cooked and heat was generated. Smoke escaped through a small hole in the roof, but some was intentionally trapped inside to help retain heat. While this made the air smoky and heavy, it was a necessary trade-off for those extra degrees of warmth. Scientifically speaking, in a small enclosed space, heat from the fire, humans, and animals combined to create a microclimate that was far more livable than the freezing outdoors. Next, we have clothing. Vikings didn't have Gore-Tex jackets or synthetic insulation, but they had something nature-made and incredibly effective: wool and animal fur. They spun wool from sheep to make shirts, hats, gloves, and socks, and used a hand-stitching technique called nail binding, an ancient form of needle binding, to create dense, warm garments. Outer layers were made from animal pelts like reindeer, wolf, or bear, which blocked the wind and trapped warmth. Fur works by holding a layer of warm air close to the skin, and when combined with wool underneath, it forms an effective insulation system. They also understood the principle of layering, trapping heat between layers, something modern mountaineers still use today. Then comes food, a vital key to survival. With winter making farming almost impossible, Vikings had to prepare months in advance. They hunted reindeer, bears, and seals, caught cod, herring, and other fish, and preserved their catches through smoking, salting, or fermenting. Fermented foods like fish and sauerkraut not only lasted longer but also provided essential vitamins to prevent illness from lack of fresh produce. Their winter diet was high in fat, from animal meat, dairy, and fish oils, which was essential because fat provides twice the energy of carbohydrates. In cold environments, this high-energy fuel was gold for the human body. But the Vikings didn't just rely on physical resources. They also relied on community strength and the warrior spirit. Winter in Northern Europe meant long isolation and limited outdoor activity. To fight off gloom and keep spirits high, Vikings gathered indoors, telling stories, singing sagas, oral epics about heroes and battles, and playing games. Modern psychology calls this group morale, a factor that keeps motivation alive, reduces stress, and even boosts immunity against illness. When they ventured outdoors in winter, whether for hunting or sailing, Vikings used clever survival techniques. They wore waterproof cloaks made from seal skin or other treated hides coated in animal fat to repel water. When sleeping outside, they placed animal hides beneath them to avoid losing heat to the frozen ground, then covered themselves with more hides. One principle they understood, and which modern science confirms, is that direct contact with a cold surface drains body heat faster than exposure to cold air. When traveling in groups, they would sleep close together to share body heat, a technique used by both humans and animals in extreme cold. In short, the Vikings' survival during the coldest nights of the year came from a perfect combination of practical knowledge, biological adaptation, and cultural resilience. They didn't have advanced technology, but they had generations of accumulated experience, passed down through stories and daily practices. Every factor, from shelter, clothing, and food to mental resilience, played a critical role. And when we look back, we see that what truly kept them alive wasn't just fire, fur, or thick walls, but their unshakable willpower and ability to work together. Today, there's a lot we can learn from them, not only about how to withstand extreme weather, but also about preparation, foresight, and especially maintaining spirit in the face of hardship. Even if you don't live in Scandinavia or face brutal winters, the Viking principles of survival, prepare well, rely on your community, and never lose your resolve, are lessons we can all use in life's challenges. And if you found today's story fascinating, just imagine how many more secrets from the past are waiting for us to uncover. So hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next journey back in time, where we'll explore more hidden histories, groundbreaking discoveries, and untold tales. Because history isn't just what is past. It's an endless treasure chest of lessons and inspiration for the present and the future.